episode 100. After winning back-to-back US Opens this year, Irina Sabalenka notched her 100th major match win. Mario Lemieux had 100 points in his rookie season, and the band from my hometown that tragically hit their highest charting single ever was called Ahead by a Century. Beyond MD, episode 100, here we go! Hey everyone, for episode 100 today, I have a very special guest. I welcome back my amazing wife, Sima Acharya. We are going to talk about our journey together and some of the biggest money and life decisions that we have made. And to make things interesting today, we will also be incorporating the kids, and we will be asking the kids questions at each chapter of the podcast, and then the kids have to answer who is most likely for each question. Is it me or is it Sima? And why don't you guys both take a second to introduce yourselves? Zion, why don't you go first?
Okay. Hi, my name is Zion. I'm 8 and I'm in grade 3. And I love to read. Yahoo!
Hi, my name is Rohan. I'm in grade 6. I'm 11 years old and my favorite hobby is soccer.
All right, so we will be hearing periodically from Rohan and Zion as the podcast goes on. Before each major section of the podcast, they have to answer an important question. So stay tuned for that. And now it's off to my conversation with Sima. Okay, everyone, I'm so excited for today because it's episode 100. And for this episode, I bring back my favorite person, my incredible, amazing wife, Sima, the person who has had my back from day one and supported me every step along the way. Sims, it's so good to have you back.
It's so nice to be back. So much has happened in our lives. So I'm excited to get into it with you today.
Yeah, it's been basically 1 year on the dot, and you're back by popular demand. There have been a lot of people who've told me your wife was so incredible. And I told you this from day one, that you are such a natural at this. You've always been so good at asking questions. And I feel like 5 years into my podcasting journey, I'm only starting to scratch the surface of how to ask questions the right way. So I've really been catching up to you this whole time. So
You're doing a wonderful job.
So, Sims, a lot has happened, though, since we last chatted. Maybe give everybody a quick update on what's new in your life.
Yeah, for sure. So I think if I recall correctly, when I was coming on the last time, I was just exiting a mini career break. So I was at RBC and I decided to leave the bank, take the summer off, spend time with you and the kids. And it was an incredible summer. And I think I teased in the episode that I was just about to start something new, but couldn't quite share the details of it. But obviously now I can. So after leaving the bank, I went and joined Ezra. So for those of your listeners who don't know who Ezra is a digital coaching provider who is just quite simply trying to make access to a coach more scalable and accessible for bigger numbers of people in an organization. It's proven that people get such benefit when being able to get coached and have a confidant to share their challenges, seek guidance and advice. And so Ezra is really on that mission to just make that easier for companies to do. And so when I was there, I had the incredible opportunity of building some of those coaching products. So the products that people in all sizes of organizations were using, I had an opportunity to kind of contribute to the build and the strategy behind those products. So it was an awesome experience. I learned so much from such smart people who are real SMEs and experts in the coaching space. And I loved it. It was awesome. But then kind of got to this period where I had the opportunity to stay at Ezra, but I also had this, I'm going to call it like a nagging pull in the back of my head. And just really quickly, again, your listeners probably don't know this. My family has a company in the pharmaceutical industry, and all of my professional career, it's kind of always been there as a potential option for me to explore and do something with. But I always chose to kind of carve my own path, do my own thing, and respect the fact that I chose to do that and chose to get those experiences. But following the Ezra endeavor, I realized that I think I need to give the family business a shot. It's going through it's a really interesting time for the company. And the experiences that I've had, I think now lend themselves well to the company and kind of where it's going. So I'm now working with my brothers, which has also been a tremendous experience. You know people as a sibling, never really getting to see them in the work world and in their kind of work environment. And they're fantastic. Like, they are such strong leaders. They have so much respect. And I feel like I am learning so much from them every day, and how they carry themselves, how they lead their team, how they lead the company. And so it's been about, I guess, 4 months into the family business. And gosh, part of me feels like I should have done it sooner, but I'm very happy that I'm there now.
Sims, one thing I have to say is I'm really proud of you for on this journey, paving your own way. I know that opportunity was, people were asking you to join many times, but you continue to pave your way and find different experiences for yourself. And I think you summarized it really nicely. You're entering now the family business at a time in your life where you've gained a lot of knowledge along the way. And I think that the impact you're going to have is going to be big. And I'm really proud of you for the way in which you've done this. So I want people to know that. Let's jump into the question. So of the two of us, who is more interested in one day living in San Diego?
I think Mommy is more interested.
Yeah, I think it's Mommy too.
Sims, let's just rewind the tape a little bit and go back to, I'm not going to embarrass you with dates here. You know I love dates, but we're not going to get into the nitty-gritty today. But 2013, so we got married in November 2013. And before we got married, we had a big decision to make. So it was in the fall where I was trying to decide, where are we going to go for my fellowship after residency? And in the early fall, an opportunity came from San Diego. And the other option was going to be putting that aside and maybe waiting for something closer, ideally in Toronto. That was going to be the more comfortable and safe route. That was going to be an option, in fact, where we were going to get, at least I was going to get, a proper salary. And San Diego was going to be a path that was only going to pay $10,000 of a stipend. That's it for the entire year. And I was doing what I usually do, making spreadsheets, going through all the pros and cons. And then I posed this decision to you, and I felt like you broke it down so simply. Do you want to talk us through like what was going on in your mind as we were making this decision?
Wow, it's fun to think back to those days. So I appreciate that we're going to talk about it today. So yeah, I remember you came to me and you were like, Sima, I have the opportunity to go to San Diego, do my fellowship there, or to stay in Toronto and do it at, I think it was St. Mike's. Is that right?
Yeah, it was going to be across the various hospitals, but just to give people the full picture, that offer was not there yet. This was a what if, but a hopefully.
Right. So clearly my memory is amazing. But yes, I remember this decision, go to San Diego or stay local in Toronto. And I think there were things we had to weigh. So it was weighing the opportunity to have a really tremendous life experience living in a completely different country and a really awesome state and in an amazing city on, as you said, little income. We had to kind of be clever in how we get by, or to stay somewhere local where career certainty was probably there. I mean, I was working in Toronto at Deloitte, so like I had job security. You were about to go on this fellowship where, if we were to like put a bet down, you would probably end up also having job security coming out of that fellowship. So it was this like weighing of job security and just being in a place that we know versus going somewhere else where we know nobody. We know that there's not going to be security there unless we both choose to like uproot our lives from Canada and make America our home for good. But I think for me, it was this opportunity of being like, we have the chance to do something really different. Like, let's not be safe. Listen, I'll quit my job. Like, that's okay. I'll take some time off to go with you and do something that's going to be something that we talk about for the rest of our lives. And so ultimately we went down the San Diego route, and here we are today talking about it because it had such a monumental effect on our lives. We got to have, we had Rohan, our oldest, with us there, and that was just amazing for him and I to get to spend all of this quality time together at such a pivotal age. He was under the age of 1. And so we got to do a lot of things together, go to parks and play dates and, just all these different types of activities while you were building up such a repertoire of musculoskeletal radiology, working with the best of the best. So I said a lot there, but I just feel like it was such an important time for both of us, but in different ways. And then also together as a new unit of 3.
Yeah, I remember the night where we came to a decision and we were out at dinner and you just looked at me and you said, Yathan, like in our early years, when are we going to have a chance to do this again? Certainly down the road it's possible, but you said, this is our opportunity to go away, do something really exciting, really fun. And you have to pick San Diego. Like this is a no-brainer. And I think one of the lessons that I learned from this, Sibs, is I tend to be somebody who I will go deep on certain decisions and I will make spreadsheets. I'll do a lot of thinking with my brain, but then it's important to sometimes just, what are you feeling with your heart? What are you feeling with your gut? And sometimes you have to take those jumps in life. And little did you know it, but I really feel like at the time you just ripped out a page from that book, Die with Zero, that I love so much. My favorite book this year. And you were really living that. And what I can say is now that we look to our lives today, how often do we talk about San Diego? Like we are clearly benefiting from all those memory dividends that are only growing over time. That's one thing I would like to leave people with, is that sometimes you just have to follow your gut and when you make these big decisions. So Sims, let's fast forward. We had a lot of moving back and forth. Kingston in residency, San Diego fellowship. My first year working was in Calgary. And then finally in 2017, we moved to Toronto. And maybe we could talk about this now, because I know Toronto for me, I had a feeling that it was always likely going to be the end destination because of family and also work opportunities, not just for me, but for you. But I had my struggles with Toronto at the start, and I can talk about those in a bit. But can you maybe just walk us through what were you thinking about and what were we talking about when we were trying to finalize that decision of, is it going to be Toronto or is it going to be somewhere else?
I remember towards the end of your fellowship, like you were talking to every hospital from coast to coast of our country, like literally, just for your listeners. Like Yathan, I think, found a list of hospitals coast to coast and was cold calling every hospital and talking to their head of radiology. Now, some of those conversations were not great. A lot of hospitals were having to cut back on hiring, pause hiring, kind of just make do with what they had. But you took it upon yourself. You're like, no mountain is too high for me to climb. I am going to get this list of hospitals and I'm going to talk to their head of radiology. I'm going to get a sense from them what's going on in their practice or kind of in their department. And you had some really nice conversations where people were very open to talking to you. And you also had some conversations where it was, we have no room. Thank you for calling. Hang up, which was like an interesting time. And I'm sure you probably have more to shed on like what that was like.
Oh, I remember when this was happening. We were in Maui on our vacation and I was freaking out about not having a job. And I was staring at the spreadsheet and coming up with a plan about how I was going to hit up every person on that spreadsheet. You're right.
Yeah. And so just to kind of segue from your comment about Maui. So we were in Maui and Yathan got to a point where he had 2 opportunities. One was to go back to Kingston where we both grew up. And the other was to go to Calgary. We had both never lived in Calgary. I had actually never even been to Calgary at that point. Yathan had obviously spent time in British Columbia, and I think maybe had interviewed through Alberta. So was kind of familiar with the province, but by no means had we ever spent time there. And I think for me, it was back to that principle of like, we could choose to stick to what's tried and true, being Kingston. We're familiar with it. We know what to expect. We have family there. So that checks that box, which was really important for us. Or we could just lean into a life experience and go somewhere completely different and see how that is, knowing that the opportunity to come back to Ontario, it's not like it's far gone. We could make it happen. We may have had to be patient with that timing, but we could probably make it happen. And so I think for me personally, it was like we were just coming off this amazing year in San Diego, tons of life experiences. It was just so much fun. We had now kind of a growing Rohan who was just approaching a year. And for me, I was like, let's just go with what we don't know. Let's go into the unknown. And let's go to Calgary. It'll be really fun. It'll be exciting. It'll be different. And everything else will fall in its place.
Yeah, I remember you were excited by the prospect of Calgary, that novelty, just growing as a family, and then eventually getting to the point where I think your work opportunities too would have been much more robust in Calgary compared to a place like Kingston. So Calgary was, wow, that was fast. That was about 10 months. We had Zion. Zion was born there. We bought and sold a house. Fortunately, broke even on that roller coaster. And then we ended up in Toronto in 2017. And I do want to say that Calgary for me professionally was incredible. I met some wonderful people. I was working with a very busy practice, and then I got a lot of experience in pain medicine under my belt, and I kind of brought that with me to Ontario. And so, Sima, I think it's safe to say Calgary was an opportunity for us to grow as a family. And then we ended up in Toronto. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but the driving factor to come back to Toronto was family. I threw in an application for North York General back in December of 2016. As I was traveling in South America with my sister and my dad, I was sitting in my hotel lobby in Buenos Aires in Argentina. And then lo and behold, there was an invitation to come and interview at North York. And I was like, oh my God, okay. And so we went and it all worked out. And I think family for sure was the driving factor to come back to Ontario. And I will recognize I struggled with Toronto at first. Very, very hectic, spending a lot of time driving. Growing up in a small town like Kingston, those were challenges for me. And then over the years, though, if I can kind of map out the major benefits of where we are now, family for sure. I had a really interesting conversation just last week with one of our trainees, and I was asking him, where are you going to end up? You got family in Toronto, you got family out west, you're training out west. And then he actually summarized it really eloquently. He's like, I really believe like long term, you kind of go where the people are. And I said, I agree. He's like, because, your geography can be beautiful. That's always going to be there. But human nature is to eventually start to take things for granted. You end up in the beautiful West Coast. Yes, it's beautiful. It's probably not as beautiful in your mind as it is on day one. And so I think that's what pulled us back to Toronto, family. We can always travel to these other places. The other thing I love about Toronto is being able to have access to trips anywhere we want. And the third big thing, Sims, I think is just diversity. I kind of see who the kids are going to school with, and it really warms my heart to see that happening and for them to be in that environment. So that's my take on Toronto. I don't know if you want to add anything there.
Yeah, I think I will actually. I will add that before we moved back to Toronto, we were out of the Toronto scene for close to 2 years, if not more. And so Toronto had changed a lot in that time. And for context, like Calgary is a much smaller city. It's really easy to get around. You're not spending a lot of time in a car. You're not navigating kind of the traffic and everything else in between. And so coming back to Toronto, like while it was really exciting because we had family here, for me, it was also a huge shock to my system. Everything got bigger about the city. There was just more cars, there were more pedestrians, there were more bikes, there were just more of everything. I forgot what it was like to have to navigate these big highways and traffic. And honestly, it was a big shock. And on top of that, I think I also lost sight of what were the right neighborhoods to live in. I was never familiar with North York or the east end of the city or north of Toronto. My family was in Oakville and Hyde Park. And so I was very familiar with the west end, but the northeast part of the city was just a was very different for me, it was new territory. And for you too, you had never spent time in Toronto in that way. And so we got the right help from the right real estate agent. We had to lean on family to go look at places for us while we were in Calgary. But it was a shift for sure. Okay, boys, question number 2. Who is more interested in home renovations?
That's pretty easy. I think that's Mommy.
It's no contest. Mommy!
I think one of the best things we did was rent for 2 years just to understand the GTA, where we wanted to be, and what worked for us geographically. And then in 2019, we decided to buy a house. One of the things where we have maybe had a bit of a different approach is, I think we're talking more about it now, but it is the concept of spending money to renovate the house, to make it your own. And I know that it started with the kitchen. Sims, you were really excited about that. You did a great job steering that. And then I think you were bringing up, like, let's change the bathrooms, let's upgrade the banisters, the stairs, let's really spice this place up. And I know that for me, one of my struggles is, obviously we all have preferences in terms of where we want to spend our money. And I think one of my weaknesses, in fact, is I had a tendency to sometimes delay gratification a little bit too much. Like I would often respond with, yeah, we could spend the money here, but I'd rather invest the money and have it grow for later. But I hope that I am coming around, and this is your chance to maybe just shed some light on there, maybe just critique me, let me know how I'm doing, but maybe talk about just, are we finding alignment here? I think I am. Would love your take here.
Yeah. Oh gosh, thanks for giving me this opportunity to kind of just give me a real take. So okay, I'll say, like, just transparently, like, it took a while. Like, it took a while for you to wrap your head around this idea of updating a home that was like relatively okay to become something that really reflected us. I've learned you need to like plant and seed ideas with you early and often for you to like come around to it. You got to share stories of other people or things that you heard where they made a change and like the benefits that they're seeing from that change now. Like, it's quite strategic with you in that regard, to kind of get you to come around. I think for you, it's like, yes. So you said I could use that money and invest it other places. But I think the other part of you is like, oh, that's a big change. There's going to be a big dollar value tied to that change.
Uh-huh.
Do I want to spend that money? So it's like you can go quickly to the payment and like the financial hit versus realizing you're going to create something that's going to be a reflection of you and that you're guiding and steering, which is kind of what you do when you invest, right? Like when you invest, you're picking stocks and investment opportunities that reflect you and your values and kind of what your interests are. And I think renovating a home is kind of similar to that. You're just not going to get a return immediately on that investment, but you are going to be happier every day when you walk into a nice new kitchen that is functional and has your color palette and is reflective of you. And you look at your wife and you see how much joy it brings her. That's the return on investment when it comes to renovation.
Yeah. You know what? So it has taken me a while to come around to it. And I think the experiment we were doing last year was kids are at a new school. Let's see how our routine is working out. Can we stay in this house? And once we made the decision that we're going to be in this house for easily another 8 to 10 years, then it really started to hit me like, oh boy, I want to make sure that that next 8 to 10 years is incredible. And I can totally see your argument, Sims, about why would you not want to make the space where you spend the majority of your time your oasis? Why would you not want to enhance that as much as possible? So it took me a while. Thank you for putting up with me and my quirks. And I'm here to say, like, I've come around. And in fact, these renovations that are going to be upcoming, I'm truly excited about them.
Yeah. I mean, what I will say though is that like we were very, despite the lead up to get to the point of making the decision, we were very aligned throughout the process. And I think you let me steer the ship, which was definitely the right thing to do. But then when it came up to aligning on design details or colors or kind of features, like it was such an easy conversation, which was also nice. I think some people embark on this journey with their partner, and they may not align when it comes to look and feel, design elements. And that can kind of be this point of friction or stress or like just difficulty. But I found for us, it was actually very smooth. And I think through the process, I was like, oh, wow, like it's nice to be so aligned with Yethan, because when the next renovation comes, as you just said, we're about to embark on some bathroom updates and some stair upgrades. Like, I think it's going to be a really easy conversation between the two of us to kind of land on what we want to do, share that with our designer to go and execute. And I know the outcome of what we're about to create is going to be amazing because of that.
All right, question number 3. Of the two of us, who is more interested in making sure that the two of you learn to be bored and that you're okay with being bored?
That is tough, but I think Papa is more wanting us to be bored.
That's very tough. I mean, it's pretty hard, but I think Papa, because he makes me stare at the ceiling.
Why don't we move on to the kids? This is a big, big topic. The kids are growing up now. They're 8 and 11. They have a lot of interests. I would say they are very different personalities. So there's a lot of different things happening in the house when it comes to, and activities outside the house as well. And I think, Sima, I think our approach to this has probably changed a bit over time. As the kids have grown up, they're doing a lot more now. Yet we are still constantly working to find that balance between being busy with activities and also having your downtime to rest.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's maybe just talk about that first, and then we can kind of segue this into, well, how are we trying to raise the kids? Do you want to touch base? Because I know you have some thoughts on activities for kids, how busy they should be.
Yeah, for sure. So I think as parents now to an 11 and 8-year-old, we've come a long way in how we make sure what types of activities we put the kids in, how much time they're spending in those activities. But if I just rewind the tape for a few minutes, I mean, when they were younger, we both operated on the principle of the kids can't stay in the house during the weekend. We have to make sure they're both in activity, so they're out of the house, being busy. And I think part of that was we just found like when everyone was in the house together, it was just really chaotic and it was messy. And it was like, hey, if you're out of the house and you're gonna do less of that as young children. But then the other part of it too, and I think, Ethan, might be a reflection on you, is the desire to want to feel like you're busy.
Mm-hmm.
You are someone who likes to be busy. Or at least I think you've actually grown, but I will just say, Yethan, 5-6 years ago, was a person who wanted to be busy, felt like he had to be busy. Efficiency was king. Productivity was king. So far that, for you to get you to sit down and watch a movie without twitching a little bit was tough. Like, you would have to get up, you'd have to walk around. And I think maybe some of that was like projected to some extent on our kids too, because it was like, they should be busy, they should be doing things, they should be learning. And I was like, yeah, they should be out of the house so it's not messy and it's like more ordered and, we just have more peace of mind. And I think when they were younger, that worked well. I mean, like it was really good. However, I think as they've gotten older, as we both have, grown and evolved in our own way, I think we've realized that like there's downside to overscheduling. And I think so many parents today feel like every minute of their kid's day has to be allocated for, be it through like preschool activities or like, preschool things they have to get done in school. Then there's like after school, then there's the after school, which is often where all the activities pick up. And our kids don't have the capacity always to share how that impacts them. They don't always have the capacity to say like, I'm so tired or my body is hurting because you've had me play soccer for 4 days a week, 2 hours a day. Like, kids look for fun, and sometimes those activities feel like they're just fun for them, but then the impact on their body, their brain, like there are things that happen that we just can't always see as parents. And it was, I believe I think it was New York Times, there was an article on like why kids need to be bored, why they need to feel like they don't have anything to do, and what the power that gives back to children, and how they get to lean into creativity and finding ways to keep them active versus their parents telling them they have to be active by scheduling them in a bunch of activities. So I've just said a lot there, but I think like the arc is like when they were younger, it was very much of like, let's keep them busy because it's good for them and it's better for us. But as they've gotten older and as their load of work and activities has grown, so has our understanding of pulling back and showing them like, if you have nothing to do today, like that's a great day.
100%. Yeah. So your point on me wanting to constantly do things, it is a problem. I think it was a bigger problem. That's in fact how the podcast was born. Like I remember April 2020 twitching my thumbs on the couch. I was so bored. I worked 4 days that month and I said, like, what am I going to do? How am I going to continue to do something valuable for the world? That's how Beyond MD was born. The concept of keeping the kids busy and enrolling them in a lot of activities, I think in the earlier ages, we as parents naturally want to expose them to different things so they get a flavor of what's out there and what piques their curiosity and interest. I think that's part of it, but I think a lot of it beyond that is really you talk to parents now and everybody says, I feel like an Uber driver during the week. I'm constantly shuttling my kids to activities, one activity to the next, and I'm exhausted. And so I think that reflecting on our experience, talking to other parents, I think over time we have realized the importance of maybe scaling back a bit or just doing fewer things with a bit more intention. Like Rohan, for example, is pretty much all into soccer, but he realized that he had to give something up along the way. So he had to drop hockey. And he realized for himself that was a better fit. And similarly with Zion, he's got a bit more of a artsy side, loves to read, make comic books, but he's got one or two sports here and there. Again, doesn't have to do everything. So I think we've gotten a bit better there. Your point about allowing kids to be bored, I think it's such an important one. I know you read The Anxious Generation. I have not read that book yet, but I think part of it is, Sims, when I look back at our upbringing, we were way less structured. We were allowed to just hang out as kids. We were allowed to hang out in the house, watch a few TV shows, be bored. I guess one thing that I think we are doing well is, I was talking to the kids about this today on the morning commute. I said, guys, I think we are a reading family. We're a family that likes to read. And I think we're all there. And that makes me really happy because that's a great way to spend some time. I'm curious though, what can we do more of to embrace this boredom that is really, really important in our day-to-day fabric?
Wow, that's such a good question. I think for us, we're getting to a point where, because the kids are getting older, I mean, we often will ask them like, how, like with Rohan, Rohan, how is soccer going? Are you still having fun with it? Do you feel like it's too much? Like we're finding ways to just check in with them to get their feedback on how they're finding it. So we open up that communication channel, and we're also very transparent with them by saying, if you're not enjoying it, you're not having fun, like we don't need to continue with this. Totally. And I think that I feel like gives Rohan a sense of relief, knowing that he has a choice in this, and through that choice, he can choose to spend time exploring other activities or to do nothing. Similarly, we're also making sure that the kids are listening to their bodies. Like Rohan has been having some knee pain, and so we're like, hey, listen, if you're having knee pain, like don't push it, rest. And again, giving them that permission to speak up and say, you know what, mommy, papa, like my knee is bothering me today. I don't think I should go to soccer. And I feel like Rohan is showing such maturity through that. Like he's making decisions that he knows is going to be better for him, which, I mean, as a parent, like that's that's like the ultimate thing that you'd want to see. And so I think we are trying to test new ways to make sure that we are giving kids that space to either, choose to be bored by not pursuing an activity or by staying home. Like on Sunday, we were just home the whole day.
I know. That would have been hard for me a few years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was a great day. It
Yeah.
was a wonderful day. And that's the other thing I just want to mention. I used to be just harping on efficiency in every aspect of my life. But now the way I guess I'm trying to challenge myself is, okay, how do I get 1% better every time I do something? And that's even just spending the day at home and being okay with that. Like, how do I get 1% better at that the next time? And I think that's important too. But of the two of us, who is more interested in traveling?
That is tough, but I think it'll go to Papa.
That is also tough. I mean, my mom, I don't know what she does, but my dad, he plans all the trips, and that's what I see him do, so I'm saying my dad. Papa, I mean.
Why don't we just touch on travel a little bit, Sims? Because I know we made some very conscious decisions as a family, especially in 2023, that we were going to stop delaying gratification forever and that we were going to start living these amazing experiences now as a family while we are all able to do it, while we are young and healthy and able to create these memories that are going to last a lifetime. Maybe just touch on what has travel done for you and also for the kids.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're becoming a travel family. The boys, like, they relish the idea of jumping on a plane and going somewhere. I mean, just for maybe a fun story, this summer I took a couple trips with my girlfriends. I went to Kelowna with some girlfriends, and another set of girlfriends and I jumped the pond and went to Paris to go see a Beyonce concert, which was an epic experience.
Yeah, we're keeping track of all these trips, by the way. Or
Yes,
at least
and
Zion is at least.
that's
Yeah.
exactly it. Zion is keeping track. I mean, I think he pulled you aside and was like, "We need to get back at mommy for taking all these trips without us." Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, he actually said, he's like, "Hey, Papa," he's like, we need to get revenge on mommy for these trips. I was like, buddy, revenge is the wrong word. You and I, we can have our own trip. We're going to figure this out.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, just shows like they're like, wow, mommy gets to go on this trip on a plane. She gets to go somewhere different, eat some amazing food, see some culture. And like, they're envious of that. And so, and they only gotten to that point because we've taken them on some incredible trips. We went to Italy and Portugal, and we went to Quebec City recently, New York, like Vancouver. Like we've kind of done a bunch of big and smaller trips with the kids. And I think that they're enjoying it because they like to do the stuff that we like to do. They want to go to really amazing restaurants and eat awesome food. They want to walk around with, in their case, a steamed milk and a sandwich and like take in the culture and sights and sounds of the city. They want to go to the spots that the locals go to see like how is life lived outside of Toronto or Canada. And those are all the things that we like to do. And so they are getting so much from that, as travel does with everyone. You learn about the world outside of what you see every day. And so going back to your question, like for me, travel now has been just that, an opportunity to see the world with you and the kids. And you are by far more adventurous than I am. So you even push me to do things that I don't want to do. I mean, case in point, in Quebec City, we walked across that suspension bridge and like, I mean, you and the boys were just like running across this bridge, which for context for your listeners, like this suspension bridge is on top of a waterfall that is higher than Niagara Falls. And so like there's only a cliff underneath you and this bridge that, gently moves with the wind. And my knees were buckling. I wanted to give up. I looked in front of me and Zion was literally skipping down the bridge.
With an ice cream in hand.
Yeah, exactly. With an ice cream in hand. And I was like holding on to the side, like just hoping and praying that this was not going to be my last breath on top of this suspension bridge over a massive waterfall. So, but you like your desire for adventure and the boys' desire for adventure pushed me. There was no way I was not going to do this. Like I can't that just looks poorly on me. I should have enough stamina and strength to do it. And so I did it and I felt amazing after. But I think this is like what travel and these experiences do. They push you outside of your comfort zone, which is so important for kind of everyone to get to experience.
You know what the kids said to me when we came back from Portugal last summer? We were driving, and then Rohan told me in the car, he said, Papa, I noticed that people in Europe, like where they live, their homes are a lot smaller. And I come back home and we have so much space. Like, we're really lucky. And I was just like, thank you. Like, this is exactly what I wanted to happen. And it did. So I think it just makes them a little bit more aware of what life is like in other parts of the world. And truthfully, how good we have it over here, and to be grateful for that on a day-to-day basis. Now, one thing, because I don't know if I'm coming around to this, Sims. You can offer your take here, but there was it was the day we were flying back from Lisbon. Rohan had to use the washroom. He went to the front of the plane, and then he got that glorious view through the curtain into business class. And he's like, oh, Papa. He's like, what's that? I literally opened the washroom and I shoved him in as fast as possible. I was like, bud, you don't need to see this right now. Just get in. Come join me at the back of the plane. He was literally right at the back. Okay. And so I have been of the mindset that, and it's not just because I did not travel business class growing up as a kid, but I also want the kids to go through a bit of a process. And I want them to be very aware that economy, premium, business class are all options, but I just want them to be hungry, and I want them to be like, bite the meat off the bone hungry, that I have to work for this and I got to earn it. And one day it's going to come. And I guess that's one reason why I'm not a big business class traveler even today. And the other thing is, I guess I would just be more excited to spend my money on an amazing experience when we get to our destination. I'd love your take, though. I know I'm probably not doing very well on this business class travel topic, but would love your take.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I also never flew business class growing up. It wasn't even an option. We were economy, back of the bus. I never really got the taste of business class until we were on our honeymoon, where we kind of got a kind upgrade from Cathay Pacific. But I think, so I also agree with you. I think that it's important to, you need to work your way up to that. It is very tempting, however, as Rohan experienced, when you walk past these beautiful lie flat beds and you see people sipping on, orange juice in his case and champagne in ours. It's really tempting to be like, oh, I want to get there. But I think, so my point of view is, I think you could still have an experience one time, and that one time doesn't always make it and always. I think if you're, depending on where you're going, like for example, we're going to Japan in later this year, early next year, sorry. And we had a conversation about that. You were like, I want to go economy. I don't care if it's a 14 or however many hour flight, we're going to do it. And I was like, no, we're not, because we want to be rested and ready. We are going halfway around the world. We have no time to spare. Like, we should be arriving in a way that's, we're going to feel like we can just, feel the impact of time change a little bit less. And so, like, fortunately, hallelujah, I got you on this board of like, hey, let's just upgrade ourselves a little bit to premium economy.
Yeah, I met you halfway.
And then I was like, let me see if I can use my credits to get us to business. So anyway, you were kind of like a bit apprehensive, but if it happens and we get in business and you arrive in Japan feeling like $1 million, you got me to thank.
I'll know who to thank. Yeah.
You know who to thank.
So I do think, though, over time, as I get exposed to this a bit more, it's a topic I will become more open to. That's my prediction, but time will tell.
Now, this is actually going to be a tough one. Okay, boys? Of the two of us, who likes to talk about investing more?
You think that's tough? That is not tough. That's 100%, 101% going to Papa.
Yeah, tough? That ain't tough. It's Papa.
Okay, guys, well done. You both did a great job.
Yay!
Why don't we just kind of wrap things up with allocating money, investing. I don't know how much you want to talk about this, Sims, but like rewinding the tape on this conversation, I think you said that when it came to home renos, this was a seed that had to be planted with me several times. Now, when we go to investing, you know that I am full on passionate, just truly obsessed with this topic. And I guess I could argue that for you to start thinking about this topic more, would it be fair to say that it took some conversations to get you a bit more into it and a bit more excited? Fair to say?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
In terms of decisions that we had to make, especially when interest rates were higher in the last several years, and now we've had interest rates falling down, we were always facing the decision of, okay, well, do we take this money and invest it for the long term, or do we actually focus on paying down our mortgage? Were we a bit divided there? Because I felt like for me, when the interest rates were very high, I was all about, yes, let's pay down this mortgage. Let's control what we can control. But then as they started to come down, I think I told you a few times, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to like invest for the long term. I don't know if you have a take on this or you want to chat about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to paying down the mortgage, I've always been of the mindset of like your mortgage is kind of the biggest debt or debt that you're holding. And if you have an opportunity to pay it down quicker, so you're that much less in debt and you have that much more freedom when it comes to your finances, like you should do it. Like to me, that's just a no-brainer. It's just like pay your house down as quickly as possible to get you closer to having more flexible cash. And I think that you obviously you follow like the interest rates and you follow all that a lot more closely, and so you're making more educated decisions on the best path forward. I'm coming at it kind of like a bit naive and ignorant to like, sure, whatever that says, let's just like get this house paid off. However, I think that we're starting to kind of we met each other halfway along that process, and I think that we're seeming more aligned now on how to do it.
Yeah, I think my argument for investing at certain times was we're still young. We still have a long runway ahead of us. And the earlier that we plant these seeds, the greater the chance we have of growing a tree that is going to bear fruit later on down the road. And we have to give enough time for those seeds to mature into that tree. That was always my argument along the way. However, I think I kind of met you halfway on this one too, because when things got expensive in the markets, and if there's an opportunity, I think I would kind of tilt back to, okay, maybe we can pay down the mortgage now. So a bit of back and forth. Sibs, I think one area where we were probably not united on was investing in real estate. And I think I have come back to you now on this. If I can summarize, I think your mindset around this was, well, why? Why get interested in this? Why get involved with this when you know that there's a potential for your time to be taken up? You could have tenant issues, you could have property issues. And lo and behold, on one of the properties that I bought, which I will add a story, Sima was traveling in 2022 with her mom and her younger brother. They were going to New York City to watch the US Open. And I had just told Sima, like, hey, there's a property that I am eyeing, that I am thinking about. And you left that day, and then I called you that night. You were in New York, and I was like, Sima, I have something to tell you. And you're like, yeah, sure, tell me. I was like, well, you know that property that I was eyeing? I actually bought it. And I remember the look on your face. You were in utter shock. Like this guy waits for me to leave town, and then he buys a property. Now, that property was a roller coaster. It had a lot of ups and downs. Fortunately, though, with pulling a few strings, getting the right property manager, and just playing the long game, it's turned into something beautiful now that actually flows quite a bit of cash. But I realized over time, Sims, that yes, real estate investing takes time. It's not passive. And I'm now back with you on this. I no longer want to invest in rental properties. I'm declaring that publicly. So you're probably pretty happy to hear that.
Yeah, no, it's music to my ears. Thank you. It's just they take a lot of time, and they're an extra stress. You worry about your tenants, as you said. Are there any problems? And I just feel like if you don't need to enter that stress into your life, like don't. And so, music. My ears are happy that you've declared this publicly, that you're going to stop all.
No more properties. No more properties for me.
Good.
Okay, Sims. Let's wrap it up with like the next 5 to 10 years. What do you want your life and our life as a family to look like?
Yeah, I like this question. Okay, I'm going to answer it in kind of three buckets. So I'm going to answer it for me, for the kids, and then for us as a family. And so I think for me, I want to continue to learn and challenge myself professionally. I would love the opportunity to continue working with my brothers and the family, and maybe even supplement that with some other type of work, be it through board work, or maybe this will make you feel happy. Maybe I'll explore coaching. I know you've always said that that's something that I should be thinking about doing. And so,
100%.
I think
Yeah.
that just all of those examples I just offered just give me more opportunity to stay curious, continue to kind of push myself into new areas. I am a generalist by nature, and so the opportunity to continue building out my general knowledge of all different types of topics kind of brings me a lot of joy and satisfaction. So I would love to continue doing that over the next 5 to 10 years. For the kids, I mean, they are entering such a crucial, exciting, and important time of their lives. And so for me as a mom and as a parent, I wanna just see them continue to grow and evolve into, like, really kind and thoughtful, curious humans who wanna just do right by the world and also continue to push themselves in arenas that they may not know about today or are comfortable in today. And as a parent, and as parents for you and I wanna make sure that we're able to cultivate that for the kids. And then I think for us as a family, I just wanna we've built a really beautiful life. We're so happy, and I wanna see us continue to kind of plant that seed and plant that, flower even further and get new experiences by seeing the world. I want us to have a ton of fun, as I think we will along the way, and I want us to challenge ourselves, each other, to push our thinking, so that we can always be the best that we can be, both individually and as a collective.
Sams, I love that answer so much. Like you hit on so many important points. I'll have my take here, not a ton to add, but when it comes to the kids, I'm going to start with the kids. Bottom line, I want us to raise kids who know how to be present. I want them to be curious and I want them to be kind human beings. Like when I reflect on my upbringing, I wanted to be a doctor from the age of 5 because I looked at my dad and then quickly I trained my mind into thinking that, well, that's the path for me. But I want the kids to embark on a different path where they explore a lot of different things. They are curious, they are hungry to learn about everything around them. And I want you and I to do whatever we can to cultivate that. For us, I think that when I look at that triangle that Die with Zero kind of outlined, you've got money that increases with time. You've got your free time, and then you've got your health. Health, unfortunately, decreases with time. And then your free time, that's kind of something you want to choose. So the things that I really want us to optimize is I want us to optimize free time, amazing experiences. And I think you and I are taking the right steps to make sure that we have a long and healthy kind of health span. Although you've constantly reminded me now that I'm in my early 40s, I need to be much more proactive with that. So that's kind of something I want to tackle. But I want to make sure that you and I are constantly prioritizing the time that we have with one another and with the kids to make sure that we are living a life rich of experiences that we're going to continue to enjoy over time. And then with you, Sims, I love you. You are my very best friend. I want to continue to explore the world with you. And one more, maybe public declaration. You have from day one basically just kind of gone with the flow wherever medical training and work is going to take us. And that has, positioned us geographically or in a location that's going to be close to work for me. And your time is coming. I know that, your family, a lot of your friends are in the West End. And I've said it, like the next neighborhood we choose, the next house we choose, you got to steer this ship, because I feel like we are entering that period of time. Like we're in the primes of our lives now, the 40s, the 50s. We have more free time. Fortunately, finances are not an issue, and we got to optimize that. So there you go. That's kind of how I'm thinking about all this
On
going forward.
record.
On record.
That's on record.
Yeah.
There we go. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ethan. I appreciate what you shared. It's like I've said, we've built an incredible life, and we're like still in so many ways just getting started. So the best is yet to come.
Absolutely.
On the West End.
I agree. Well, Sims, thank you for joining me again on episode 100 and for making this a really special one.
You're so welcome. Please have me back.
I will. So thank you for joining me today on a very important and deeply personal podcast episode for me. Thank you to all of you for making this possible, and I look forward to seeing you in a few weeks' time. Until then, stay well, stay savvy.